go ahead and call everyone to order. We'll go ahead and begin our meeting. Today is July the 11th, 2022. This is our regular session meeting of the County Commissioners. We will start off, as always, with a prayer and a pledge. Tonight, Commissioner Allison will lead us in our prayer. Commissioner Bond will lead us in our pledge. Let's stand, please.
Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. And we just ask for your guidance and your strength in the decisions that we have to make for the people of McDowell County. And we just ask you to keep a hedge of protection around our people and just lead, guide, and direct in whatever decisions we have to make. In Jesus' name, amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We all have a chance to look at the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Approve the agenda.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just item A, we'll need to postpone that to August if that's okay.
Okay. Item A will be off the agenda tonight. Any other? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda tonight, under appointments, we've got Dr. Brian Merritt here with us tonight, and he's going to give us a presentation on the Construction Trades Academy at McDowell Community College. So, Dr. Merritt, come on up to the podium, please. And we welcome you.
Thank you all. Hope y'all are doing well. We'll keep it brief. I think last time I said I'd be brief and brilliant, and I was probably brilliant, but not too brief, so I'll try to be brief this time. But thank you for letting us to come and speak about our Construction Trades Academy at McDowell Tech. You guys hopefully agree with us that degrees are not the future of the workforce, and we know that, and we need to make sure that we have, degrees are, they have their relevance. However, we know that moving forward in today's economy, it's changing. We need to have options. We need to be flexible, and we need to be nimble. And hopefully you all read the article a few weeks ago that we released about our first graduating class for our Construction Trades Academy. We had 7 graduates in our inaugural class, and I've got some folks I want to recognize here in just a few minutes. But during that graduation ceremony, I told the group and I told our graduates that he's not here with us tonight, but when Neil Gurney calls me from Gateway Wellness Foundation in the future, I'm going to say yes to him, because it was a perfect marriage of community needs and what we can do at the college to help support that. But around this time last year, maybe sometime mid to late summer, Neil called and we discussed a partnership that would help Gateway, would help McDowell County respond to local workforce development needs and to the needs of additional affordable housing in McDowell County. Gateway actually helped McDowell Tech, helped us write a grant to the Dogwood Health Trust and to hire an instructor who's here with us tonight. I'll introduce him in a few minutes, and to also help purchase critical equipment and some other supplies and things that help us start up a Construction Trades Academy. So, that happened less than 1 year ago today. We received the grant in fall. We hired a really great instructor in January. People always make our programs happen, and we know Chris helped us do that. And by end of February, I believe, we started our inaugural class in the Construction Trades Academy. Students train 5 days a week. They about 5 hours a day approximately. They participate in work-based learning. They worked in paid positions with Gateway. They helped do home repairs, installation of manufactured housing throughout McDowell County and the surrounding area. The homes that they helped construct and repair are part of, you all know, a larger housing development project for Gateway, and really is helping to support low-income families and just individuals. So I just want to say a special thanks to Gateway and other funding sources. We're going to be able to continue, and we've got some handouts we can give to you all if you'd like them. We're going to expand our Fast Track Career Academies starting next month, and we already have a lot of students registering for them already. So starting August 8th and also August 15th, we have a number of other career pathway academies that students can take: plumbing level 1, heat and refrigeration technology, residential electrical systems. We already have 6 students registered to, training to be electricians. Another construction trades academy, where I think we have around 11 students registered for the second inaugural class, or the second second annual, I guess, class that we've ever had. I believe I'm missing one, Stacy. Intro to plumbing, I believe, is the other one that I'm missing on my list. So we've got, these classes are 8 to 16 weeks in length. They start August 8th, August 15th, and we know that, like I said earlier, the degrees are not necessarily the future. There's ways that we can train and help folks in a short-term basis, go to work, gain a career. And there's some folks here I want to thank for and recognize for their work that helped pull this together and pull it together very quickly. Because sometimes, the way colleges work, sometimes it takes years to pull this kind of stuff off. This took under a year, and really, after we got the funding, it only took about 3 or 4 months. Stacy Buff, he's our Associate VP of Workforce Development, his new title as of June 1st. I don't want to get his head too big, but Stacy's here tonight. He helped really pull these classes together, work with our employers, and make sure we're having the right classes on their schedule. Chris Saxton is our lead instructor for our Construction Trades Academy, and has multiple, he's a magician. He's got lots of different talents and things, but he's, during our graduation a few weeks ago, you can tell that his number one talent is mentoring young people to be able to, be successful in careers. And then Margarita Ramirez is here also, from Executive Director of KULA, and some of her staff members as well. And there were 2 pieces of magic that I just want to say that really helped pull this together instead of funding. One, KULA, last year we received the Department of Labor grant. KULA has a workforce development, Latinx workforce development position, and that person's primary goal is to help recruit students into, one of their primary purposes helps recruit students into McDowell Tech to, be enrolled in these programs and go to work. And this was a product of, I think, Margarita and Chuck Abernathy kind of had this dream, and when I heard it during a meeting one day, I said, well, we have got a grant we could write it into and we can make this happen. So the Latinx Workforce Development Director is, it's been a perfect marriage. And it's funded for 3 years, so we're going to continue to try to find ways to make sure we can sustain that. But we've also, on average, have supported students with about $500 per class to be able to make this tuition free. And you can see the billboards all over, tuition free till 23. So that's been kind of the 2 pieces of magic that have helped make this happen, helped put students to work, and really just wanted to come and thank you for the invitation to be able to come and just talk briefly about it, introduce the folks that made this happen, and I just get to talk about it and let's make it happen. So happy to answer any questions you all have, and just want to thank you for your time and your support. So.
Dr. Merritt, we appreciate the effort you and your team have made. As you know, and you've heard me say it many times, I'm a very strong advocate of the vocational classes. I'm a retired general contractor, North Carolina general contractor, and so this is near and dear to me. So I really appreciate all the effort that's been put into this by everyone involved.
Well, thank you all. Any questions? All right. Thank you all very much. Take care.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item C, the opioid lawsuit update. Mr. Woodman, would you introduce Mr. Seagle?
Sure. Mr. Seagle, who will be here speaking tonight, is our local counsel for the national opioid lawsuit that the county's been participating in, 4 or 5 years now. It's been a while, but he was instrumental early on in meeting with the board at that time as far as making the case why it was a good thing to participate. And so as we've talked about, that lawsuit has entered the settlement stage, which will bring tremendous benefit to our community for people that are struggling with addiction and hopefully prevent addiction as well. So he's going to hear kind of maybe wrap up a little bit some of where the process stands and answer any questions you might have.
Welcome, Mr. Seagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's awfully good to be here. It's like that old John Denver song, hey, it's good to be back home again. This is home for me. I grew up here in the Middle Village of Clinchfield and on State Street later on. And I love seeing McDowell County in this lawsuit. It's always made me happy, and I'm so proud of what you've done. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm just glad to be back after, as Ashley said, going on 5 years. I guess y'all were wondering, what was going to happen. 5 years ago, you set out on this adventure and you probably thought nothing would ever happen. And it could have turned out that way. But as it's turned out, we had, you were leading the way. You were one of the early folks in North Carolina to stand up, have the courage to walk into the street and take this fight on. And after you came in, we now have, I think it's 73 counties in North Carolina. It's remarkable that we now have that many. And we have a lot of cities in North Carolina that have joined this contest. There's not many in the country. But with the number we have, as small as it is, now what has happened with this settlement, and the settlement we're talking about tonight, is with the 3 main distributors, McKesson, Cardinal, and AmerisourceBergen. They're paying, and you know this, of course, but just for the record, they are paying $26 billion to settle the case against them. And that's what we're talking about tonight. That's where the money's coming from that Ashley's talking about. But all told, this lawsuit, this effort, has now, is bringing over $750 million into North Carolina. And of that, because you folks have been involved, in fact, because you folks have been involved in other people like you is the only reason we won this lawsuit. But now we have only about 3,000 governments in the entire country and 15 Indian nations. That's all. There's over 30,000 counties in the country, called different things in some states. But it's a really small group, but because of what you did and the money that's been generated, we're now, because of this fight, a relatively small fight to begin with, we're now seeing this money go all over the country, all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the Outer Banks. And I'm going to have to go back to the Outer Banks before long. I'm going all over North Carolina. We've got a lot of folks now to represent, but it is now the biggest civil action in history. There's never been anything like it. Never been anything conceived of nor executed that's anything near what this lawsuit has turned out to be. And of the settlement that we have, the one that's starting to pay now, you'll get about $465,000 this year. You've had one payment, you'll have one more. And all totaled, McDowell County will be getting about $3.8 million. And because of the local government involvement, you folks and other local governments, counties and cities in North Carolina, primarily counties, will have a significant voice in how the money's spent and what you do to help correct this crisis. And it's the only thing that has changed the behavior of these companies. I'll mention that. I know you got a lot on your agenda. I don't want to take too much time. But I will just mention, you may have a question about what else is left. These are 4 of the main defendants, but there's about 20 more left to go. This fight is continuing on. We're in trials now, and as it turns out, we will have we do not have it yet. We've got the first verdict against the chain pharmacies. Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens, they are defendants. And we tried the first case in West Virginia, tried it to the court. We have tried damages to the court. We tried liability to a jury. The jury found in our favor. So now the distributors this was the big first front in the battle. So when they threw in the towel after our first appearance in Ohio, it resulted in this settlement. As soon as this settlement started, we started to work on the pharmacy cases, the chain pharmacy cases. So now we've had the first trial in that case. They thought they might be able to win, so they rolled the dice and went to trial in Ohio, and they lost that trial. We won. And we're still waiting to see what the damages will be. This is a test case. A lot of these are just bellwether cases. We try them to see what the result will be, and then you have a much better idea of what to do about the rest of the cases. And the remaining cases, some of them I'm sure you've heard about. The Sackler family, Purdue Pharma, is one of the big events there. Purdue is in bankruptcy. The Sackler family, we've been fighting them in New York for years. They moved several $1 billion offshore into personal bank accounts before they bankrupted Purdue Pharma, the pharmaceutical company they own. We've been trying to get that money back, brought back to put back into the bankruptcy court so it will be there to pay out to you folks and others like that.
What's the chance of that happening?
It's pretty good. Yes, sir. Yeah, we're making great progress. Unfortunately, I believe it will end up with this family being able to keep some of the money personally. They will put it on back, but we got a lot of it back, and it's been a really successful effort. If you want to see the story of that, there's a documentary. It's on HBO now, The Crime of the Century. It's a 4-hour documentary, two 2-hour segments on that part of this case. So you'll find that to be very interesting. There's a lot of documentaries out now. That's one that is really well focused on where the cases is coming. It's still coming. We hope that'll be over soon. But I won't spend time talking about all that. There's just so much to it. There's so much of this, and one of the reasons I wanted to come here, and I'm going to a lot of places, to other county commissioners. None that I love like McDowell County. But you need to know that as this money starts to come to McDowell County, you might say, and some counties would say, some of the counties, there's a lot outside North Carolina. There's a few counties in North Carolina that have not participated. They're still getting money, just like you are. They will get virtually the same amount. The attorney's fees are coming off the top, so you don't have to pay attorney's fees where they don't. But the thing is, it's easy for someone else to say, well, if we didn't have to do anything, and we're getting money just like the people who did. Well, that is true, but had it not been for you having the courage to do it, and actually walking into this fight, nobody would have anything now. And because of what you've done, the $26 billion is being spread across the entire country. I think it's a little over 95% now of all the counties and major cities in the United States will recover substantial funds for abatement for opioid treatment because of this case, because of what you're doing. And that is remarkable. It was for about 25 years that the federal government, the U.S. Department of Justice, they did not much. I mean, I don't want to be critical of anyone. I'm not here to criticize. But for about 25 years, this epidemic got worse and worse and worse. We were losing over 100,000 people a year in overdose deaths, and it's even worse now. But nothing changes the behavior of these companies without somebody taking their money and making them pay for the damage they've done. That's the only thing that changes their behavior. The federal government, they have ways of dealing with federal governments. It's politicians far, far away. But when they have a lawsuit with people like you, some of you know your own grass, some of you grow your own tomatoes, you're good folks who are dealing with these problems face to face. You see them, you understand them, you feel it, and you know what it takes to sort it out. They can't make you go away by playing some political game. They have to pay. And that is what has changed the behavior. $26 billion is a lot of money. I asked my wife how long she thought it'd take to spend $26 billion if you spend $1 a second, every second of every day. And she said, well, I don't know, a long time, probably 30 years. It's 824 years. That's how much 26 billion is.
I believe my
824
wife
years.
could spend that much.
I'm sorry.
I believe my wife could spend that.
Well, it's, but, you know, the wonderful thing about it is you folks had the courage to step up and do something where the federal government couldn't do anything. No one was able to do anything to change the course of this epidemic. There were things, you know, little cases, you know, the U.S. attorney, you know, might file a case in one state, but you know, the folks in the federal government come in and settle it, seal the file, so no one ever gets to even see what happened, and things just keep on rolling until local governments got involved. So it is local governments that caused this to be a victory. It's because of you. And I know when you started this, you didn't know how it was going to come out. You didn't know that one day I'd be back and we'd be talking about, you know, having money to spend, having ways to at least turn this tide, to stop it, to start changing behavior. We didn't know this would happen. You could have ended up in trial. We could have ended up with nothing, and it would have made no difference at all. But it was courage and the commitment to step up and take on the fight that made the difference. It truly did, and you folks need to know that. You did that. You did it. And a whole lot of people didn't, and they're being rewarded because of what you did. And I'm just so proud of what you've done. I truly am. But I won't take any more time. I know you got other things to do. I'm here. I can answer questions, possibly. There's lots of things going on. I might actually have an answer, but I can find answers if I don't.
We appreciate your report tonight, and I do remember when this happened. Like you say, I don't know what, 5 or 6 years ago. It's been
Going on 5 years.
been several years back, but under the advice of our good county attorney and our county manager, you know, we jumped aboard, and we're glad we did, and really never thought anything would ever come of it.
Well,
but it did, and we appreciate all the hard work that was involved.
Well, we've been blessed, and let me say something about Ashley and Fred. These fellows, when, you know, the trial teams learn, when they ask questions, they're not trying to make conversation. If they ask a question, if they know the answer, they're making a point. If they don't know the answer, they want the answer. And that's not always the case, but, you know, these fellows have been involved, they've been engaged. We had to go through a lot, you know, all sorts of procedural things. But it's gone remarkably well, and they've been champions, they truly have. I'll be proud of them. Well, thank you. I'm glad.
We as a board are proud that we had a part in it, so thank you.
Just for clarification on the allocations, there will be someone coming in a month or two
Yeah.
to give us recommendations on how to spend the money that's coming in.
Yeah, the association, the NCACC, they've done a great job in putting together a memorandum of agreement, so it's called, on allocation, methods of dividing the money up. Done a lot of research on ways that you can devote funds to certain resources to certain things and improve the recovery rate. So a lot of work's been done. North Carolina's really been a leader, and you folks will love North Carolina.
Thank you so much.
One other question.
Yes, sir.
Eugene Seagle.
I'm sorry?
Eugene Seagle, any relation?
Oh, yeah, I'm kin to every seat.
Okay. he was a good man, a good friend.
And most of them are horse thieves and bootleggers, but he's good.
We won't get into that. There's still some hard problems.
No, we're all related. And so-
Thank you for coming and sharing that with us.
All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda tonight, we're going into old business, and we'll start out with item A, the Public Safety Training Complex. Mr. Wood, would you lead us off?
Sure. This is something I've mentioned to you probably about 6 months ago, but I wanted to make sure that was more of an informal notification of a possibility. And as something starts to become more possibility, moving towards reality, I want to make sure we have a full endorsement of the board. So many years ago, McDowell Tech, some of their staff went to our staff at the old landfill area, and you just maybe had a dream as far as the property there under the old landfill, on top of it and around it, maybe seeing that as being underutilized. And so there's not a lot of things that we can do as a county with our old landfill because of all the requirements of the state on that. But so we can't build buildings on it. We can't do a lot of things. And so college staff started that time to think and dream, and had conversations with county staff at the time about, hey, what would be possible with some of this property? Could you do something with it? Maybe not a building, but maybe some accessory improvements. So fast forward until the last year or so, those dreams turned into a little bit more of plans and discussions. This college has received some money from the General Assembly to start some of these wheels moving, perhaps, for a public safety training complex. So what's been talked about, again, as a reminder to you, but just for everyone's benefit, the college and our public safety partners, being the Fire Commission, the Fire Rescue Association, the Sheriff's Office, others, have identified a need for a driving track in the community for training purposes. They've identified the need for a new fire training grounds. If you're familiar with the complex on Old Greenlee Road, it was innovative 25, 30 years ago, but compared to the modern needs, it's lagging and lacking. So those partners and others have approached and would like your endorsement to move forward with some preliminary planning for utilization of property we are not using and have no long-term use for around the landfill. So don't have a map in your packet, but you have the old landfill grounds itself. You have property on the north side of the old landfill heading towards the current training range that is there, the college uses, and staying more on the east side of the property away from the waste side. So I wanted to get your endorsement of that tonight so these conversations and planning can continue with our engineer as well as the state staff.
Well, that property, it's been limited on what we could do with it anyway, and I'm glad that there's been a use found for it. So I think on behalf of the board, we'd be happy to move forward with that.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal and to continue on with it.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, Mr. Wood, the transfer station.
Yes, sir. Staying in the neighborhood. So going about, maybe about 9 months ago, I noted to you, that NCDQ, the solid waste section, is requiring every transfer station operator to do a site assessment. And so that was something passed in a bill, I believe about a year ago. Not picking on us in particular, but so our engineer had to do this evaluation plan that you authorized again some time ago, and then have that plan or assessment submitted to DEQ for their review and evaluation. So that was, the assessment was completed, was submitted to DEQ about 3 months ago, and they have submitted back comments to us. And as we anticipated, there are a lot of comments along the lines, and you have that in your packet, as far as there's some deficiencies as far as the structure. It's about 30 years old. It has a tremendous amount of wear and tear, as you can imagine, with the equipment and trucks going in and out. And so we're going to have to do some work on the facility. And the transfer station itself, the portion under roof is going to have to be closed while that happens. And so in order to be able to receive at least some amount of waste, probably the residential for our convenience sites, we're going to have to do essentially a temporary floor right beside it, which is included in what you've got here. Otherwise, we would have to turn everyone away for 3 weeks, and we're not obviously able to do that. So if there's commercial waste from the public picking up at McDonald's or somewhere, they can haul that directly to their own landfill. But our convenience sites need to stay open, of course. So you have a plan in front of you, a cost estimate. It's very high. Of course, it's how those things go, especially these days. And I'd like to bring options to you, either do this or don't do that. But you do not have an option on this. You have to repair the transfer station. And I've talked before, the same engineer has and will continue to work on some long-range planning for us. This doesn't necessarily take the place of that long-range planning. You know, maybe a nice big facility that's better layout, better design, or whatever. That's still, in staff's recommendation, needs to be where we need to go. But this needs to happen now, to where that new facility, when it's built, this will be used for something else, probably like commingled recycling or something. So this is an investment that, again, at least for another 30 years or so.
Yeah, we're going to, again, I want to reiterate the statement, we have no choice, really, to move forward with it. What's the pleasure of the board on moving forward with the rehabilitation plan that's recommended by staff?
Make a motion to move forward as a plan.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. Next, item C, the building projects. Mr. Wood, would you lead us up?
Sure. Maybe one action item here. So just a quick update. We've moved on from talking about buildings that were like this one, under renovation or construction, now looking forward. So we've talked about the services building, which is the old administration building, of course. We received state funding for building renovation in last year's budget. So you had identified utilizing that funding for renovation for the services building. In order to move forward, we had to have an architect identified, and so we went through an RFQ process, and we have a firm right now who, based on the initial pass, seems to be well qualified. We've not gone through background checks and interviews and all that yet, but I hope to have that back before you next month. Then they would understand our scope, they would meet with the affected departments, and then come back, after months after those discussions for renovation plan. So no action there. Old EMS station, Station 1 there on Garden Street. Got a staff transition going on, but we're still trying to get things done, of course. And so we are working on the demolition bid for that facility. Apart from the flagpole and the generator, pretty much everything else will be taken down. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks as well. Which leads into the next item. You had identified that site as a parking lot for the needs that we have ongoing there. So I mentioned that you authorized doing an RFQ for an engineer who would do an analysis of our parking lots and driveways in the county and help come up with a plan on how to pave them, and if they need to be completely removed, repaved, etc. So we went through that process. It took about 3 months or so. And a firm named SEPI, S-E-P-I, was identified as the most qualified. They have a packet contract included. And I noted about setting a budget at one point, and that's not, doesn't seem to be necessary at this point, but there is a contract for, I believe, $66.5 that they have sent that we would ask you to approve tonight. That will get the evaluation process going, but
And that would be the ARPA funds that would.
yes, sir. And that would also, that'll look at every paved lot we have. They'll do core sampling where necessary, but they will also fast track, at least overseeing the one parking lot on Garden Street. Since it's ready to pave, everything else is going to need more or less an evaluation.
Just clarification on that specifically, with it being in the city, do we split, or do we ask the city to split cost with us in parking lots that will happen inside the city limits?
The discussion, I believe, has been focused on the one adjacent to where the current EMS building is, and not on the west side of Garden Street.
Yeah.
So that is another discussion.
That is open discussion.
On the EMS building side.
Okay.
Good question. So we'd ask for review to approve that contract with SEPI.
I make a motion to accept the SEPI contract as presented.
Second.
The motion and second, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. See, that's all the building project.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Moving on to item D, Parks and Recreation Project. Mr. Wood, please.
Thank you. Do have an action item here, and I'll start off with it. This is about the shooting range. Again, that facility opened a little over 2 months ago. It's been very successful. As we knew going into it, the original scope did not have paving of like the 2/3 of the driveway beyond the bridge. So the NC Wildlife had to ask the federal government for additional funding for that paving, which has been done and been provided. So the state is now asking if you will go and do the 10% for the balance.
That's 30,000 is the 10%.
It should be.
I make a motion to accept it as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Glad to hear that happen.
It's a big deal.
Okay.
Thank you. The Recreation Center, I'll just look next to your updates right now. I met with the architect Thursday that is looking at the Recreation Center project, and hope to have a draft plan in front of you in August. So it's a busy time, and they're trying to prioritize this over other things, but now they have other clients as well, so hopefully have that for you to review. And reminded him of where the state funding level is to kind of keep us honest as far as the planning goes. Also, I believe last month you authorized seeking quotes for lighting at Maple Leaf and Old Fort. Mr. Marsh has been working on getting some quotes, and as things are these days, some of the quotes are very high. Mr. Allison understands the electrical world, so we're going to have to look at a formal bid for that. We were just doing sort of informal quoting at that level, so we'll have to put together a formal bid. So based on your prior action, we'll just keep rolling with that and do a formal bid and bring back what we've got hopefully next month. And that's the only action I have on that.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
As far as,
Action on that?
we
You didn't request action?
no, we're going to wait till we get the bids, formal bids in, and then make the,
Okay.
That's okay.
I was Okay, next on the agenda is item E, the water system project. This, I think, will be an action item.
There will be, yes, sir. So we have a lot going on in the area of water. Most of that is due to the funding that's been made available through ARPA, a lot of it through the state funding, the $11 million funding that was made available. So we, Mr. Silver and I have been in a lot of contact with our engineer, which is McDowell Associates, on what we're calling phase 1 and phase 2 of the Nebo water system expansion. And they just sent a map today, or maybe late Friday, that I don't have to pass out to you, but I will get that to you, that shows the phase 1 is generally the area to the immediate west of the existing system along NC 126. So it's Nevin-Gypsy, Jack Corpening, Deadwood Drive, also going towards the Burke County line on NC 126, around the Lake Club area. That phase 1, as we're calling it, is getting very close to permitting. So there's NCDOT permitting that has to happen for the encroachment. There's a railroad crossing that has to be dealt with, and a few other areas. So if anyone asks you, and we had someone stop by the other day asking, that part is entering the permitting stage. So that can mean, typically that would mean we would be ready to go to bid in 3 months. But things are different in Raleigh as far as a lot of projects going on. And so whenever things are submitted now, maybe we're early enough on the list to where we would have a quick turnaround, but I imagine there's a lot going on. Phase 2, which I've also called Nebo West, for lack of a better term, would be old number 10, Memorial Park Road, heading back towards the city limits, as well as Rollins Chapel Road. That has not entered the design phase yet. We're almost at that stage, but we previously authorized that. So they're, I think, trying to finish up a little bit on one before they get going on the next one. I don't have it on here because this was fresh news, but I'll mention, if you'll recall, I let you know that Mr. Silver and Ms. Hassani, when she was here, worked on a grant application for Hoppy Tom Hollow. That was sort of a shot in the dark. We were looking, we knew this grant was available. We knew the neighborhood fit for demographic reasons. Had no clue if they had bad wells, if they had interest in water. We just kind of did the old-fashioned thing and started knocking on doors and asking. And there was a tremendous amount of interest. There was some contamination that was identified, which both of those, and the effort of Mr. Silver and Ms. Hassani, of course, led to us being able to put together a really good grant application, which was 3rd highest in the state as far as number of points awarded. So it's sort of a preliminary approval right now, so knock on wood, but that authority votes Wednesday, so hopefully they'll vote on that, but that would bring more to that community. So I've worked on grants a very long time. Rarely are they awarded like the first go around, and rarely that many high score points. So they did a great job. So I wanted to say that, on camera. And we called Ms. Hassani the day of so she could get that news as well. So she's very excited. So had dogs chasing them and all kinds of things, but it was worth it for the effort. So great effort by them. The next item is an action item. We were approached by a couple of business owners around exit 90, where we have an existing water line out near the interstate around Harmony Grove Road, to ask for water service. And so Appalachian Regional Commission is a federal agency, as you know, that will fund typically half the cost of the project. They really like utility extensions, sort of their bread and butter. It's easy to easy to track. It's a water line or sewer line or whatever, linear feet cost, and it's pretty easy. So we had submitted pre-application, knowing that we would have to come back to you for formal approval. We were invited to apply, which typically means we will be awarded the grant, typically. So the cost of the project is total about $600,000. Half of that would be local expectation. And so we would ask that you allow the submission of the grant, knowing that half of it would be local, and that would come out of our ARPA allocation for water. That's okay.
Ready for this? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve. That's presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Yes, federal ARPA funds was 8.8 million, I believe, and then state funds was 11 million.
That's right.
Is there I know that we've got a running tally of those numbers, and I'm not asking for them tonight.
Sure.
But if you can get that updated so that we kind of have an idea of how much more ARPA funds we've got out there. But yes, 100%.
We will get that to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
We'll vote to vote.
Oh, yeah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Then the last update, you authorized a preliminary engineering report for the West Marion Elementary Area Water Study, and that's not kicked off yet, but I did speak with the engineer on Thursday, I believe, so that'll hopefully lead to grant awards and so forth once that's done. That's all I have in order.
Okay. Let's move on to new business now. First item A, administrative items, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. So you have a couple of items. You have EMS write-offs. You have a resolution asking for the transfer of a 1995 Chevy Suburban to McDowell Tech. And the last item is what you see here in ordinance redesignating McDowell County Courthouse site or door to this building. So that's something that where we do official postings for this meeting, called meetings, disposal of property, etc. We'd like to move that here, which is where our staff is.
Make a motion to accept the administrative items as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. Item B, tax matters. Lead us off, Mr. Wood.
Those should be routine. Ask that you approve.
Okay, you've had a chance to look at these. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item C, board appointments. Madam Clerk.
Yes, we have one vacancy at the planning board. This is the second reading, and I handed out your written ballots.
I think they've been passed down.
All right, thank you. The vote is unanimous for Tommy Stain.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, the board needs to designate a voting delegate for the NCACC annual conference and the NCACC Legislative Goals Conference, which is in November.
We had volunteer.
I'll volunteer. You did it last year.
Okay, we've got a volunteer, Chris Alpha, Commissioner Chris Alpha.
Thank you. It's a big job.
Is that for both?
Yeah.
Is that all you had, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on. Item number 5, this will be citizen comments.
I don't have anyone else signed up.
Okay. Commissioner and staff reports, Thank you, Mr. Wood. Commissioners. Okay. I hear we've got a closed session. Do I hear a motion that we go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. We are now in closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11 at A6. This is personnel matters, and so we will be in closed session for that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming out.